Welcome to the herbarium in Copenhagen. We are about the 20th biggest herbarium in the world and have about 3 million specimens. My name is Olof Ryding. I'm a collection manager at this herbarium. This is our famous Herbarium Vivum Brasiliense, usually known as the MarcGrave Herbarium. It's a book herbarium. Its weight is 6 kilo and it has 173 pages of plants. It is the oldest collections from Brazil, perhaps also the oldest collections from tropical America. Before I open the book, I will say some words about its historical background. During the 17th century, the Dutch wanted to conquer the Portuguese colony Brazil. They first attacked Bahia but failed. In 1630, they were more successful with Pernambuco, and soon after they expanded the territory to the area shown on the map. They called their colony New Holland or Dutch Brazil. Along the coast, it covered the area from the state of Maranhão to the border of Bahia. The Dutch stayed in Brazil until 1654, when they were finally defeated by the Portuguese. The most important Governor-General of New Holland was Johan Maurits van Nassau-Siegen. He ruled for almost 7 years. The Governor-General invited several artists and scientists to New Holland. One of them was Frans Post, who painted these landscapes in Pernambuco. Another was our principal person, Georg Marcgrave. Georg Marcgrave was born in Liebstadt in eastern Germany. He studied at several German universities and matriculated at the famous Dutch University of Leiden. As many scientists of his time, he was educated in a wide range of divergent scientific fields such as astronomy, geography, and botany. In Leiden, he became acquainted with a renowned scholar, Jan de Laet. It was through de Laet's contact that Marcgrave was appointed as astronomer and geographer in New Holland. Marcgrave arrived in 1638. In Brazil, he primarily made astronomical observations and went on expeditions. When traveling, his main duty was to draw maps, but he also collected many plants. When his protector had to leave in 1644, the artist and scientist had to leave as well, whereas the others went home to Holland. Marcgrave went to Angola. A few months after his arrival in Angola, he died of fever. The former Governor-General gave Marcgrave's work to relevant scholars in Holland. De Laet received his plant collections and botanical notes. On the basis of these notes, De Laet edited the magnificent book Historia Naturalis Brasiliae that was published in 1648. The first part of the book was written by the physician Piso, who also was in New Holland, and the second part by Marcgrave. 10 years later, Piso incorporated Marcgrave's description and figures in his own book, but committed many errors. Marcgrave's notes have not been preserved, but the manuscript made by the editor during the preparation of the book is now deposited at the British Museum in London. This manuscript contains species descriptions that are numbered, but later the editor removed the numbers, and the numbers do not occur in Marcgrave's book. Actually, many of the herbarium sheets have reference numbers to these descriptions, but they don't perfectly match these numbers. The professor Ole Worm at the University of Copenhagen owned a large collection of natural historic objects and was the author of a folio work, Museum Wormianum. He communicated with de Laet about Marcgrave's Brazilian herbarium, and his oldest son, who studied in Leiden, bought it for him in 1653. A year later, after Ole Worm's death, his family sold his entire collection to the Danish king Frederick III. This page in the MarcGrave Herbarium carry his calligraphed monogram. The page at the right is the title page. The herbarium was probably kept at the King's Curiosity Chamber in Copenhagen Castle, that now is the place of the Danish Parliament building. Later, it was kept at Naturaliekabinettet on Charlottenborg. When Naturaliekabinettet was closed, most of its collections were handed over to the University of Copenhagen. The book herbaria, including the MarcGrave Herbarium, came to the Botanical Garden. For many years, the book herbaria were stored in the Botanical Library and was sometimes overlooked. It probably came to our herbarium in the second half of the 19th century. In the 1980s, the MarcGrave was restored and got a new hardcover outside the original cover. The outer cover was much harder than the inner cover. A few years ago, we digitized and photographed all the pages in high resolution. It is our intention to send these images to JSTOR. All these images have recently become available on our homepage. Denmark also acquired other objects from New Holland. After his return to Holland, the former Governor General gave Eckhout's painting as a gift to the Danish king Frederick III. His large paintings show people, plants and animals from the colony. On the painting to the right, you can see, for example, a cashew nut tree, and in the woman's basket you can see a passion flower. The paintings are now on permanent exhibition in the Natural Museum in Copenhagen. I will now open the herbarium. The outer cover is new and was added when the herbarium was restored in the 1980s. Unfortunately, it was very tightly bound. Due to this problem, I don't want to open it too much, and I will only open the 11 first pages. After that, I will show you photos of several other pages. Let's look inside. These empty pages are also new. This is the original cover. As you see, it is uneven. I presume it was even when the herbarium was new. You can also see some remains of some strings. It has been bound together with strings. This is the page with the king's monogram. F3 means Frederick III. This is the title page. This is the first page with plants. It is untypical. It has much text and there is only a flower and a bud. The species is the timber tree Symphonia globulifera in Clusiaceae. This is the herb Strangia leptocarpa in Fabaceae. At the base of the page here you can see a number. That is the page number. The page numbers are at the same positions on all the sheets. Here you have another number, 33. That is a reference to the editor's manuscript. And here we have a text. Such text occurs in a third of sheets. And these numbers, I should mention, it occurs in 3/4 of the sheets. The plants are firmly glued to the sheets, probably with gum arabic. You can also see a colored strip at the base of a plant. That is only a decoration. Other book herbaria have a pot or a heart or other things at this position. You can also see that there is a label here that has been added quite late by researchers. We don't allow researchers to add identification slips or other information anymore. The plant on this page is Myconia holocericea in Melastomataceae. You can see the text here gives a vernacular name and a page reference. This page reference is a reference to Marcgrave's book, and Marcgrave's book also uses the same vernacular name. This is the crop plant Cassava, also called manioc. This is a pinna of a leaf of a coconut tree. And this is a part of a leaf of pineapple. See. This species is nicker bean. A shrub or a climber in Fabaceae. It has been used as medicine against fever. It is a plant growing near the coast. And the species is perhaps most well known for its seeds that can drift in water and remain viable for a long time. This way, the species is spread to remote areas. These seeds can even drift by the Gulf Stream and end up at the coasts of northern Europe. The mimosas are very well known for having leaves that can move. When you touch them, they fold together and bend down. This is apparently, as you can see, also applies to this species, Mimosa polydactyla. Well, this is the last plant I show you directly in the book. It is the wing-stemmed passion flower, Passiflora alata. It is a climber with edible fruits. Here comes a nice and well-preserved specimen. The species is the cashew nut tree, Anacardium occidentalum, in family Anacardiaceae. It's a tree of tropical American origin, well known for its edible nuts. This photo and the following photos were taken to JSTOR's database, but have not yet been delivered. Images to JSTOR must show a color chart and a hand rule. The barcode label seen on top left should normally be glued to the sheet. However, in this herbarium, it was put loose on the sheet when the photos were taken. Most of the specimens have been identified to species, but 10 specimens have only been identified to genus. This specimen has only been identified as a Solanum. Marcgrave did apparently not find a vernacular name for this species. Therefore, he called this Frutex, which means shrub. Actually, his book uses the same name. The magnification to the right show leaves with paper fragments on their upper side. The presence of such fragments suggests that the plant has been removed from another sheet. We believe that the plants were mounted in Brazil and later remounted. This is the only sheet that has an indication of where the plant was collected. On the top left of the page, it says, "In sino omnium sanctum," which is Bahia de Todos os Santos at Salvador in the state of Bahia. That was actually in the enemy territory. The species is the cosmopolitan weed, Amaranthus viridis. Marcgrave's book mentions the collection locality of several other specimens, but most of their localities are unknown. The cosmopolitan tropical red alga Galaxaura obtusata is the only non-vascular plant in the Marcgrave Herbarium. Although there is a reference number on the top right, it was not cited in Marcgrave's book or in the editor's manuscript. In 16 cases, the herbarium contains 2 sheets of the same species. This applies to the endemic Brazilian tree Clusia nemorosa in family Clusiaceae. On both the sheets, the text on top left refers to the same page number in Marcgrave's book. The twig on this sheet belongs to the leguminous tree tamarind, Tamarindus indica. The species originated in Africa but was introduced to America due to its edible pulp in the pods. With few exceptions, the text on the top left refers to Marcgrave's book, but on this sheet it refers to Francisco Hernandez's book Nova Plantarum Animalium et Mineralum Mexicanorum Historia, published in 1651. Due to this reference, we believe that the text at this position was added by Ole Worm, the editor of Marcgrave's book, the late, died before Hernandez's book was published. As Marcgrave's book is older than 753, that is the starting point of our nomenclature, its species names are not valid unless later validated. Linnaeus never visited Copenhagen and never saw the MarcGrave Herbarium. Hence, considering its age, it contains comparatively few types, but there are a few. The French pharmacist and botanist Jean-Baptiste Aublet did not either see the MarcGrave Herbarium. However, in 1775, which is after the starting point, Aublet named the grass species Saccharum sagittatum and cited Marcgrave's description of Arundus sagittata. Thus, this specimen constitutes the original material of Aublet's species. It was later moved to the genus Gunnerium. As far as known, Linnaeus' pupil Martin Wahl, who became botany professor in Copenhagen, was the first post-Linnaean author who studied the MarcGrave Herbarium. In 1797, he described a new species on the basis of this specimen. It is the tropical herb Justicia imbricata in family Acanthaceae. The species has now been moved to the genus Elytraria. Later, other well-known Danish botanists such as Nathaniel Wallich and Eugen Warming have also studied and cited the herbarium. The editor of Marcgrave's book mentions 17 species that he ordered to be drawn from Marcgrave's specimen. I will show you 7 examples of drawings based on plants in our herbarium. This plant is the tropical South American subshrub Galpimia brasiliensis in family Malpighiaceae. The similarity between the drawing and the plant is obvious, but the part of a branch is lost. Actually, the reference number 270 at the top right on the page refers to a description on the page in the editor's manuscript that I showed you. The plant on the sheet and the drawing is the shrub Venantura brasiliana in Asteraceae. In this case, the image is laterally reversed. The species is the American seashore shrub Chrysobalanos ikaku in Chrysobalanaceae. This is Birsonema sericea in Malpighiaceae, a tree growing in Brazil and Guyana. This pinnate leaf belongs to the hogplum Spondias mobin in Anacardiaceae, a tree of tropical American origin that has edible fruits. They taste okay, but are far as good as its relative mango. The herbarium has usually only one species on each page. This is one of the two exceptions. The twig with broad leaves belongs to the Brazilian tree Solernia latifolia in Fabaceae. The orchid is the Brazilian Trigonidium acuminatum. The Leeds manuscript mentions that the orchid grows as an epiphyte on Solernia latifolia. This explains why both are mounted on the same sheet. It is the orchid that has been drawn, but the image is laterally reversed. My last example is the tropical South American mangrove tree Conocarpus erectus in Combretaceae. You may object that some of the leaves have the wrong position, but these leaves are not attached to the plant. I presume that they have fallen off after the specimen was drawn and later mounted at the wrong positions. You may ask, are there Marcgrave specimens outside this herbarium? Yes, there are. There are 10 specimens in the herbarium in Oxford, England. Another question is, how many of Marcgrave's specimens have been preserved? Well, we don't know. But it's possible to give a rough estimation. Among the 10 specimens in Oxford, 8 of them are represented by duplicates in our herbarium. That suggests that 80% have been preserved. Another estimation based on illustrations in Marcgrave's books suggests that 93% has been preserved. That's not too bad. Before I finish my presentation, I feel obliged to mention my most important source of information. It is an article written by 4 articles in 1977. The first author, Dardano D'Andrade Lima, was professor at Recife. The other 3 authors are Danes, but one of them, Troels Møller Pedersen, emigrated to Argentina. I hope you found this interesting. Thank you for listening to my talk.